Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and welcome to my live letter 30 unofficial translation overview. Now, I apologize ahead of time. It is still 5 in the morning, and I'm trying to be reasonably quiet. I'm trying to talk closer to the microphone, but even then, I'll probably need to raise the volume on the recording afterwards. I'll do my best to make sure that it's at a reasonable volume for you guys. So first of all, again, shout out to Marco for doing the translation as per usual. He gets a break next month, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But thank you, Marco, as per usual, and thank you, Anonymous Skunk, for appearing in the video. So this translation, or this live letter, if you've been keeping up with the information on the forums, or you paid attention a lot to the last live letter, there weren't too many big things that got announced here. There were a lot of things that just didn't show, and there was no trailer. We did get the official release date for the patch, which is June 7th. That is what I predicted the other day when they said early June. Turns out Sly is now Sly Jesus, so he gets to hold that over my head on on Wednesday this week for Stay of the Realm. We'll talk about that later as well. So right here was what we spoke about last live letter. This was basically an overview of 3.3. New main scenario quests, new Hildebrand, new animal weapon, Moogle Beast Tribe quests, the new dungeons, Sorkai and Hullbreaker, new trial, which we'll reveal here in a second, the new 24-man raid, the Weeping City of Mach, the Aquapolis, which is the treasure hunting dungeons. We have Deep Dungeon, which is 3.35. We have Fields of Glory, which is a new Frontlines map, the new PvP map. We have more housing plots, 720 houses being added per server. Price adjustments, less expensive on the more populated servers, slightly more expensive on the less populated servers, and then flower pots and flower vases, which we'll also explain a little bit here later. New crafting and gathering gear, recommended gear button, HUD layout, save feature, and raid finder. So we're basically going to be going through the majority of this stuff. The Weeping City of Mach didn't appear, neither did Hildebrand, and a few other things here like Deep Dungeon also didn't appear. I would like to remind everyone that in the last live letter, even though it didn't have the right background music, they did do a little preview of the Weeping City, so that's why we didn't have that here. So first up, the new trial we confirmed will not be one of the members of the Warring Triad. It will in fact be the Final Steps of Faith. That is the official name of the trial, and it is against Nidhogg. It will have a normal version for the story and an extreme version which will drop weapons. We didn't get the item level of the weapons. My guess would be I-235. Just a guess, however. So this will be the new trial in place of the Warring Triad. The Warring Triad will still be in this patch, but it will be entirely story related. We will battle Regula Van Hydrus again, and then something's going to happen to him that changes him a lot. So basically he's Kefka. I said this in the earlier video regarding the Warring Triad. He's basically going to turn into Kefka, so expect him to be a really, really big villain going through 3.4 and 3.5. We'll see what actually happens to him though. Moving on, the Aquapolis. So we got a lot more information about the Aquapolis. And we got to see some live gameplay of it, so there's a few big things. For one, you'll start off and you'll have to actually beat Dragonskin maps. Dragonskin maps are the only maps that the Aquapolis can spawn from. So after you finish a Dragonskin map, there's about a 20% chance that a portal to the Aquapolis will appear. When you go into the portal, and by the way, you have 10 minutes to enter that portal, so that means you have to distribute the loot for the dragon skin. It actually won't let you enter if there's still loot in the treasure in the loot pool from the dragon skin map itself. So after you do that, your party members and yourself can zone in to the Aquapolis. You'll start in room number 1, and in room number 1, you'll touch a treasure chest and a bunch of enemies will come attack you. After you kill the enemies, you'll touch the treasure chest. You'll get items like materia, crystals, crafting materials, and minions, things like that. Then you'll have 2 doors to select between. You have a 50-50 chance of entering the next floor. If you guess the correct door, then you'll be taken to floor number 2. If you guess the incorrect door, you'll be teleported out of the Aquapolis. There are 7 floors total, so if you have like a 1 in 128 chance technically of making it all the way to the end. So and then as you go deeper and deeper, the enemies get harder. There's different types of floors that you can run across. For example, there's the goblin floor where you chase goblins around and beat them up to get their gil. There's floors with bosses on them. There's rare chests that can give better rewards but instead make you fight a boss as opposed to as opposed to like waves of enemies or things like that. So there's quite a bit of variety, and if you can make it all the way to the deeper floors, the rewards get way better, all the way up to grade 5 materia, which drops from the 7th floor. So there's a lot of loot you can get from here. All of it should sell pretty well on the market board, and it's designed to be balanced for around 4 people. So while you can enter the Aquapolis with 8 people, it's balanced around 4 people. So keep that in mind for patch day. You also have an hour to complete the entire Aquapolis. So if you end up getting to the 7th floor, you have an hour to complete all 7 floors. So this is basically everything that I just explained right there. They got to room 2 and then failed. They showed off Flying Fenrir very briefly, and then they showed off the Raid Finder. Now, for those who don't know, the Raid Finder is basically a cross-server queue for endgame raids only. As it says right here, this will only work on the latest Savage raids, and it's basically to try and make it so that you can either pug or create statics in a more reasonable way. Now, keep in mind that the Raid Finder is actually replacing the means through which you queue into Savage raids after they're unlocked. So statics now, when the Raid Finder hits, instead of going to the hinterlands, you will have to zone in via the Raid Finder. So no, you don't need everyone in the hinterlands anymore in order to zone into your raids. Just saying for those of you out there doing Alexander. Now, the big thing is you're able to set a lot of settings. You're able to set it to if you want people, if you want a 1 chest run, if you want a 0 chest run, if you want a 2 chest run, you'll be able to set it to if you want people to learn, if you want people to already have cleared it, and how far into the fight you can queue into the amount of experience you have. So if you queue into final phase of A5 Savage, for example, it will match you with other people that have gotten to the final phase. You won't skip phases, but you'll be queued in with other people who are looking for final phase progression in the Raid Finder. So this will work within your data center. Ether data center, Primal data center will all be able to queue together, and it should make it so that if your party finder's not really happening, if you want to take a chance with learning the raids without having to go through some sort of process, like if you want to go into A5 Savage, you have no experience in it at all, you can use this to queue into A5 Savage with no experience and get that experience that you can then use maybe to enter a party finder or to find a static or to find a group on your server. So that is what it is basically going to serve as a means of doing it. You don't actually skip phases when it comes to that queuing into the phase spot. Just remember that. Also not practive. Now, when you're queuing into the Raid Finder, it will guarantee you have the following setup: 2 tanks, 2 healers, 1 ranged physical, Barter Machinist, 1 ranged magical, Black Mage or Summoner, 1 melee DPS, Ninja Dragoon or Monk, and 1 other DPS, which can be any of the other 3 categories. However, if you queue in with a full party, you don't have to worry about any restrictions. So don't worry about that. This is only for people that are queuing in with 7 or less people. Now, keep in mind that as of right now, 2 of the same job will not be allowed to enter the party when selecting duty completion as your purpose. Otherwise, you'll be okay. So if you just queue into the Raid Finder, you will not be matched up with the same job regardless of role. They're considering making it so that tanks and healers may be able to get 2 of the same, so you get 2 warriors or 2 white mage or something like that. But for now, there will be 0 repeat jobs if you're queuing into duty completion as your purpose. Now, if the queue times take too long, that will change, but we'll see how the Raid Finder does. It's a piece of content that, in theory, should work, but Square Enix has done a lot of things that should work in theory, and they don't end up working particularly well. Mentor Roulette was one of those, or the Mentor channel was one of those. And it works in some cases, but it's had a lot of downsides. And we'll talk more about the Mentor system a little bit later. So we're getting a new Frontlines map, Fields of Glory, also known as Shatter, and it's basically like level 60 Secure. It's a little bit different than level 60 than Secure was. So you have 3 of these capture points all around the map, and these are basically like they were in Secure. You stand in them and you secure the area, and that's it, you're done. But there's also going to be crystals, or I'm sorry, giant ice pillars that can spawn throughout the zone. And once they're destroyed, they're gone for the entirety of the game. But when they're destroyed entirely, they will disperse points based on the amount of damage done by each of the 3 Grand Companies. So you want to be the Grand Company that deals the most damage to try and get ahead of the other Grand Companies. On top of that, there is also the aspect of trying to capture those 3 points, and holding more than one of them gives you a consistent point advantage. So you're going to really want to be fighting over these crystals as often as possible to make sure that when the ice spawns and when it is gone, that you're the team that's on top. We're going to see how it works. It's still Grand Company restricted. It still is 24v24v24. It's just a matter of seeing how this map translates to level 60. Does Frontlines become more popular with more maps? Is it good that we're getting more maps? Should we be getting more modes for the old maps? These are questions that we'll hopefully have answered later on. So next up, housing update. Again, reminder, 720 new houses being added per server, and the prices did get changed. I made a video about that earlier. But they're also adding indoor flower pots. Now, this is not indoor gardening per se. These are flower pots and vases. You can put and you can grow flowers in them. You can change the color of the flowers. And for the most part, you're really just making it aesthetically for your house, like, oh, I want red roses over by the wall. So you put the flower pot, you grow the rose, and you're good to go. However, you can actually pick the flowers out of the pots and make head accessories with the different flowers. And they said they'll be adding more flowers and more colors later on. Now, next up, crafting and gathering. Now, we read up earlier, it did say that there was going to be new crafting and gathering gear. It doesn't say gathering gear here, but again, if we scroll all the way back to the top and we read this first one, it does say crafting and gathering gear. So I'm assuming that even though it doesn't make mention of it in this patch, there will be new gathering gear on top of new crafting gear. Now, this is new crafting and gathering gear, which means it will increase the item level and the strength of your crafters and gatherers. Now, on top of that, for the crafting ones, the gear will be shared, so it will only be one set of new gathering gear. And it will require crafter scripts in order to do that. They're also rebalancing blue scripts and the rate of which you can acquire gathering and crafting materia. So red scripts for gatherers, there will be more locations to gather them, and for crafters and gatherers, the amount of red scripts you get when you exchange items will be increased. On top of that, materia, anywhere from grade 3 to grade 5 materia will be made more useful and obtainable. Main story missions will have some, but there will be other means of getting them as well. So also, new gear that's going to be craftable, Beast Tribe gear, Vanu gear, and Nath gear, so you look like the Vanu or the Nath. And also here's some new gear from the 24-man, the Weeping City of Mach. This is casters, I believe. This is melee physical DPS, and then this is tanks. So then we have some changes to the UI. We have the recommended gear feature. I made a video about this the other day. This will automatically equip all the highest item level gear you have on you onto your character. It will not determine best in slot. It is only for people who regularly level fast and forget to update their armor, or they can't find their armor because their armor chest is a mess, like yours truly. The HUD layout save feature, you'll be able to save 4 separate HUD layouts per character, and then you'll be able to switch between them. So this is for people that maybe have a PvE setup and a PvP setup. Maybe they have their white mage bars, they want their party bar to be really close to the center of the screen for healing, and then maybe on monk they don't even want the party bar on the screen, so they have it removed. So it's a bunch of different HUD layouts for you to play with, and you can have up to 4 of them saved. And this is per character, so if you have multiple characters, you won't have to worry about there being any overlap. You can transfer them between characters, doing it the old-fashioned way by dragging it through a folder, but this is a good feature. It's something we've wanted for a very long time. They're also increasing the draw quality, which is basically your draw distance and the quality of the textures for the PS4, or there's going to be an option to do that. They're adding partial matching to the market board, which is, for some reason, it's a feature you need to enable. It's not just a native change to the matching system. So, because apparently they're afraid that if too many people used partial matching, it would crash the server. If that happens, I am never going to let them live it down. I will make fun of them for that forever. The fact that they've said it makes me want to make fun of them forever, but that's what it is. So basically, the way the market board works now is you have to search an item from left to right on its spelling. So, for example, let's say you have an item called the Awesome Sword of Amazing. Right now, the only way to search for that sword on the market board is to search it by typing in awesome. It's the only way you're going to search it. Now, with the partial match, if you typed in the word amazing with partial match enabled, you would find the sword as well. So it should make searching for some people quite a bit easier. There's also new mentor marks. You can now be marked as either a PvE mentor, a trade mentor, which means crafting and gathering, or a PvP mentor. They also have PvP preset actions, so basically you're able to make gear sets for PvP, but instead of them being for gear, they're for your action points. This has two functionalities. For one, if you have multiple builds on the same job for PvP, you can make multiple PvP preset actions. The other thing that it does is whenever you switch PvP presets, it will actually give you a loading screen, and it'll check through your character files and everything, and look for cheats. So if you're someone who's using speed hacks, or you're somebody who's using positional hacks of some sort, it will actually search for those cheats and I guess in this case report you to Square Enix if it finds any sort of irregularities. So expect there to be a few people that get banned unrightfully, but also expect it to maybe cut back on people who attempt to speed hack. Now, on top of that, they're also adding the functionality for you to freely change the order of the jobs in your party list. Previously, you could sort it by role. Now you'll actually be able to manually change the order of your party list. They're also adding the idling camera and enabling it for in combat if you want to take cool in combat screenshots. Please do not use this. Please do not go as a scholar. Auto follow your tank in Total Rock, let your fairy do all the healing, and turn on your idling camera. Please do not do that. I'm going to do that once, but I'm going to do it with the permission of the other 3 people. Just saying. Anyway, group pose update. They said Friends Free Company Ivory Chapel states, like, I guess there's, and also they increased the range of the camera tilt on it. I don't really use it all that much. They also added some new auto translate features for the raid finder. And then we have the anima weapon. So, few important bits about the anima weapon. For one, they are not nerfing the I-200 to I-210 step. They are increasing the crystal drop rates for the I-170 step. And then this is just a screenshot of what the new step is going to look like. Basically, you need to collect items, and when you use the items, you can choose to increase a stat. So every time you consume one item to increase the stats of your weapon as you're progressing it, it'll increase it by the stats by a minimum of 3. So you have a total of 228 stats that you need to fill. That's 76 infusions minimum. Or I'm sorry, maximum. However, sometimes you'll get +4 or +5 to the stats, which can reduce the amount of time that the quest takes overall. And there's going to be tons of different ways to get the items, more so than there was for the I-200 to I-210 step. So, still no nerf to the I-210 step. I don't know when they'll nerf it. I don't know if they'll nerf it. But keep in mind that the Realm Reborn Beast Tribe quests are having their reputation gain increase next patch. So if you're someone who's been ignoring that option of just doing a Realm Reborn Beast Tribes every day and collecting those items as you slowly working towards your anima weapon, that should be a more viable option in the next patch. So that's your nerf of the patch, I guess. And also the off stats of this are equivalent to that of if you had 3 grade 5 materia. So because it's a total of 228 off stats, that kind of tells us it's an I-240 weapon, not an I-245 weapon, and that it will be statistically in every way superior to an upgraded lore weapon, assuming that you give it the correct stats. Because this is customizable. The stats on this are customizable. Now, for the second half, I'm not going to spend much time with it. It was the special guest. It was one of the women who works on the main scenario writing and also some of the side stories as well. She worked on the Binding Coil Bahamut, Crystal Tower. She worked on the Rogue Quest, the Dark Knight Quest, the 2.0 main story, the Parts in Corthus, the 3.2 main story. So she did a lot of really good work for the main story, but this is always just an interview with them, and we don't really go over them in the live letter overview. There's a few questions like, does she want Estinian to live in the main story? The Warring Triad, what's going on with that? The Mughals, story-wise, what's going on with them? That we found out those are actually going to be crafter. The Mughal quest will be a crafting beast tribe like the Ixal was, and you can use them to level from 50 to 60 as a crafter. So keep that in mind if you're somebody looking to level up your crafters. That's going to be added to your list of things to do. And then just a bunch of questions about the story, things she wants to see, the struggles that she's had. She mentioned Nero Tolskeva's coming back at some point, how much she had a hard time writing the Binding Coil story because she didn't actually do the 1.0 story, so it was hard for her to become involved in writing the 2.0 story following up on the events of the end of 1.0. They also asked about romance stories between Emmerich and Lucia and Livia and Gaius. her involvement in like Hush Font as a character, problems with developing MMOs, and then that was pretty much all it was for the entire second half. So we don't need to spend too much time on that right here. And then they got to the announcement section, new concept arts that are going to be buyable from 7-Elevens in Japan, tumblers and mini plushes that are going to be available for sale. They also announced a new type of seasonal event, the Gold Saucer Festival, known as the Make It Rain campaign. It starts Friday, May 27th, so the end of this week. I'll be making a video on it. And it's basically a new seasonal event that they wanted to add because early summer has no seasonal events in the world, I guess. So they wanted to make a Final Fantasy XIV original seasonal event. So that's going to be interesting. They said that the quests for it are going to be very unique compared to all other seasonal events. So I'm looking forward to seeing what it is that they managed to do with the Gold Saucer Festival. I think that's really cool. And they said that they will not be developing new Gold Saucer content for the time being, that this festival is instead going to be basically the 3.3 Gold Saucer equivalent, just because of the timing with the quests. There's also a role-playing convention in Cologne, Germany next weekend. The Final Fantasy XIV channel will be airing on the 29th of May on the website that was listed in the live letter itself. They're going to have a patch note reading the day prior to the patch. It's a 24-hour maintenance, June 6th to June 7th for patch 3.3. I will be streaming patch 3.3, Nidhogg and all that day. And it's 24 hours because they're adding a lot of server stuff. They're doing server fixes because of the huge number of houses they're adding. So that's something to keep in mind. The free trial is also getting a buff. The free trial will now last up until level 35, and you'll be able to become a job. I think that's way better, because level 20 has always seemed like a horrible level to stop at for Final Fantasy XIV's trial. It is not a good representation of the game. I've known many a person to play up to level 20 and just be like, why would I buy the full game? Level 35, way better. Give them a taste of the job system. Give them a taste of more than one button. Looking at you, Lancer, for their rotation, you know, things like that. There's a Final Fantasy XIV magazine coming out. There's an interview with Yoshida in the Famitsu magazine on June 22nd. And very important for you North Americans out there, Final Fantasy XIV Fan Festival tickets will go on sale next month. Tickets will only be available for current subscribers. If you are not a sub, tickets will not be available to you. But on top of that, more tickets are going to be sold than in 2014. I wrote over last year, but over 2014. So keep all that in mind. That was the entire live letter. Overall, it was a pretty bland live letter. We basically, the high points were a lot of really the small quality of life things. Nidhogg was obviously a major point. Getting to see the Aquapolis was way better too. But the big things we're waiting on, Deep Dungeon in 3.35, that's looking like it's going to be early July. And that'll also be when the first season of the Feast ends. So hopefully those of you out there who are competing for top ranking in the Feast have your progress going pretty well for that one. So overall, okay, live letter wasn't bad. A lot of people were upset we didn't get the trailer for the patch. I didn't expect us to, because they usually don't do that till the website itself goes live. I'm expecting that by this Friday, though. That's what I would expect. By May 27th, I would expect us to get a trailer. But anyway, let me know what you thought about this live letter, about the content, the new PvP maps, Nidhogg as a trial, giving him his due diligence, the Raid Finder, the Gold Saucer event, the Aquapolis. Let me know what you think about everything we heard about in this live letter. Everyone, thank you for joining me for another live letter overview. I will see you in the next one, and also I'll include links to the unofficial document and the official translation under the YouTube video. So check out the unofficial and official translations, both under the YouTube video. But anyway, I gotta get going. I got a busy day ahead of me. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I will see you next time. Until then, take care.